Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In today's video, we're going to be discussing death. However, we're not going to be discussing death in the traditional sense, i.e. moving on to the afterlife. We're going to be discussing death personified. Now, if you're aware of the tale of Deathly Hallows, which you certainly should be, then you'll remember a figure that was representative of death. He was the concept of death in one figure, a personification of that which represents an end, finality. Death is an interesting topic in Harry Potter, not only because of the figure from the tale of three brothers, but also because of how it's depicted, where in our own world, death can sometimes be much more permanent and traditional. The derivation of death which exists in Harry Potter is much more open-ended. Before we get into that too deeply, I want to say that everyone has a different perspective of death, whether it's rooted to your religion or just your level of spirituality. Harry Potter portrays death quite uniquely, as it makes a clear distinction between the body and the soul, with the body purely being a vessel that carries your vital life force, the soul within. The soul is a common theme within the Harry Potter story, and time again we're brought to its significance and its relationship to death. When someone's soul is sucked out of them by Dementor, they're not considered dead, but almost. And this notion of being almost dead, or in some kind of limbo state, is repeated across Harry Potter in varying ways, whether it's in the form of ghosts, shades, or the dead reincarnated. In Harry Potter, death is much less finite, and there are many ways that your soul can continue to live on, not necessarily always traveling all the way to the afterlife. But perhaps the most unique representation of death in Harry Potter is its personification, the figure from the tale of the three brothers, which tells the story of the Deathly Hallows. Who is this figure? Did he really exist? Or is it an old wives' tale? The original story of the Deathly Hallows comes from the tales of Beedle the Bard, fictional stories written for young witches and wizards meant to contain lessons or morals. However, we clearly see in the Harry Potter books that the Hallows mentioned from his story actually exist: the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Invisibility Cloak. So my question is, just how far from fiction was Beedle's tale? Clearly there's some truth to it, but how much? More importantly, is death a real figure? From the tales of Beedle the Bard. There were once three brothers who were traveling along a lonely, winding road at twilight. In time, the brothers reached a river, too deep to wade through and too dangerous to swim across. However, these brothers were learned in the magical arts, and so they simply waved their wands and made a bridge appear across the treacherous water. They were halfway across it when they found their path blocked by a hooded figure, and it was Death. He was angry that he'd been cheated out of 3 new victims, for travelers usually drowned in the river. But Death was cunning. He pretended to congratulate the 3 brothers upon their magic, and said that each had earned a prize for being clever enough to evade him. So the oldest brother, who was a combative man, asked for a wand more powerful than any in existence. A wand that must always win battles for its owner. A wand worthy of a wizard who had conquered death. So, Death crossed to an elder tree on the banks of the river, fashioned a wand from a branch that had hung there, and gave it to the oldest brother. Then the second brother, who was an arrogant man, decided that he wanted to humiliate Death still further, and asked for the power to recall others from death. So, Death picked up a stone from the riverbank and gave it to the second brother, and told him that the stone would have the power to bring back the dead. Finally, Death turned to the third brother, a humble man. He asked for something that would enable him to go forth from that place without being followed by Death. And so it was that Death reluctantly handed over his own cloak of invisibility. In essence, Death gave all 3 brothers one of the fabled Deathly Hallows, and they all had their own unique fate. No brother wanted to ever see Death again, but that wouldn't have ever been possible. The first brother was killed in his sleep, and Death took him for his own. The second brother tragically ended his own life, which meant that, you guessed, he met Death once again. The last brother, who claimed the invisibility cloak, was a wiser, better man, and he used his cloak to escape Death for most of his life. However, when the third brother finally reached an age where he was happy with what he had accomplished, he took the cloak off and graciously met Death once again, effectively choosing to depart the world of the living. Regardless of the decision that the brothers made, or the actions that they took, they ultimately all faced Death once again, and the way that it's depicted in the story shows them physically encountering this same personification of Death from earlier. If the tale is real, how did Beedle know about what had happened, or of the relationship between Death and the brothers? Did Beedle write fact or fiction? One thing to consider is that the tales of Beedle the Bard continually reinforce that the stories are in fact the author's original creations. However, that certainly doesn't mean that Beedle did not draw inspiration from his life experiences, the things that he had done, or the people that he had met. J.K. Rowling surprised the following foreword to the book. If his stories accurately reflect his opinions, he rather liked muggles, whom he regarded as ignorant rather than malevolent. He mistrusted dark magic, and he believed that the worst excesses of wizard kind sprang from the all-too-human traits of cruelty, apathy, or arrogant misapplication of their own talents. The heroes and heroines who triumph in his stories are not those with the most powerful magic, but rather those who demonstrate the most kindness, common sense, and ingenuity. There's little evidence to support either argument, that the stories were fabricated entirely, or that Beedle drew inspiration from something that he had witnessed in his life. However, given that the Hallows actually exist, I'm willing to bet that it was the latter. We know the 3 Hallows genuinely exist, and that can be confirmed, but was the personification just Beedle adding his own spin to the story? How can we be sure that Death wasn't just a powerful dark wizard? Could it be possible that the 3 brothers were talented wizards that just created the Hallows themselves? As it stands, there is no proof that suggests that Death personified is indeed real. His existence is only mentioned in one work, and it's a fictional one. To say that Death exists because of this one book for children is a stretch, particularly as the existence of the Hallows is the only real argument one could make for his existence, and there could be many ways that the Hallows themselves were created. Albus Dumbledore, a respected, wise old wizard, doesn't seem to have much faith in the validity of Death's existence. "So it's true?" asked Harry. "All of it? The Peverell brothers? Were the 3 brothers of the tale?" said Dumbledore, nodding. "Oh yes, I think so. Whether they met Death on a lonely road, I think it more likely that the Peverell brothers were simply gifted, dangerous wizards who succeeded in creating those powerful objects. The story of them being Death's own Hallows seems to me the sort of legend that might have sprung up around such creations." And I'm with Dumbledore on that one. There are many powerful artifacts in the Harry Potter universe, and the Hallows, though powerful, don't seem outside the realm of possibility. I don't think that Death existed, but am I certain? Certainly not. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section below. Until next time, remember, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure.